Getting the best return on our commercial property investment is our main priority in buying it. Well, while we buy it, we're not getting a good return. Now, there's various ways of measuring the value of a commercial property. There are things like future costs and development or that sort of thing. But the main measure is cap rates, or the actual rental return we get purchase the property. Now, how do we go about it? Now, need to know our market rentals. Markets do fluctuate slightly according to the economic conditions. Now, the slight decline, as we've had recently, some rents have softened up a bit. Things like retail rents, harder to get tenants, they've softened a little bit. And there are ways of getting the best tenants at the best possible cost to ensure that our asset remains valuable in the future. So the first thing is to understand our local rentals. Keep your ear to the ground. Be competitive. What is everyone else charging? What are leases going for at the moment in the area for the particular property like yourselves? Now, the temptation is to go for slightly inferior tenants who have trouble getting the ideal location, who are willing to pay a bit more. But over the last 35 years or so in commercial property, I found that it's probably not worthwhile getting a bad tenant, because you end up in a court, not paying rental, losing money. In a lot of cases, not always. It may be worth taking a gamble because you want the best possible rent, like you're getting 1 or 2 or 3, 4 years ago. But it's best to stick to a reasonable market rental. Now, when you look at the term of the lease, does it fit into your plans of the property? Is it congruent with the leases? Have you got future plans to redevelop it or refurbish it? Now, if it is that's the case, you may have a business plan to refurbish it in 4 years' time. So you try to organise your leases as best as possible, so they terminate at that time. So you've got vacant possession to do the work you want to do. On the other hand, if it's a top quality building, it may suit you better to stagger your leases. That way you lose a tenant. If you've got 4 tenants, you're only losing 25% of the rent, or you don't lose as much. So whereas you've got 1 tenant or 4 tenants going at the same time, you're not getting a return at all. Discuss this with your commercial property expert to ensure you organise it the right way to suit your individual situation. So the other thing is the length of lease, long lease or short lease. Again, it depends on the refurbishment situation, redevelopment situation, how it goes. And you may have to offer a longer lease to a better type of tenant to improve the value of the property, because people like to have good quality tenants, pay rent on time and look after the building. So how do you do that? Well, you look at their assets and liabilities. Do they own property? What's their past experience in business? Have you checked their references? What have the other landlords said about them? What sort of business plan do they have? Have they got a business plan? Do they look professional? You want people to have some sort of plan that they succeed. They succeed, you succeed, they pay rent, everyone's happy. The next thing is, when we've got a tenant, what do we have to do to encourage them to lease our premises? Now, the growing thing is incentives, especially in a low market. Now, a lot of owners are reluctant to give incentives because they feel as though, why should I give them money, or redo the bathrooms or kitchen or the office, install a new air conditioning system or repaint it or redo something. It's a cost out of my pocket. We want the highest possible rent. Now, let me give you an example. Now, let's say you've got a property which is worth about $100,000 a year, you think, and the market's declining a bit, like it is at the moment, and you say, okay, I can get $100,000 or maybe $110,000 from a tenant which is a bit iffy, may not be able to pay the rent down the track, hasn't got a good business plan, past history is a bit questionable. Surprising how many landlords go for that. I found over the years, this is the best way of doing it. Let's give you an example. Say you've got a potential tenant, and they maybe offer you, say, $90,000 a year, and you want $100,000 a year. Well, you could do that. You've got the tenant straight away. They're going to pay you straight away, and you're getting $90,000 a year, losing 10%. Fair enough. Then you've got a situation where you can negotiate with them. They want to pay 90. They need some work to be done on the premises. They want some sort of incentive. And you want to get $100,000 a year rental. So what do? Say you offer them an incentive of, say, $50,000, half a year plus. Sounds ridiculous. You may think, well, have I lost my marbles by saying this? Well, maybe. Now, let's give you an idea. Now, $90,000 a year rental, you're getting it straight away. You've got 4% increases. In year one, it'd be $93,344. In year two, $97,344. And in year three, $101,237. That's for $90,000 lease. No incentives. Now, let's say a situation where you've got a tenant and you give this incentive at $100,000 a year rental. Win-win. They're getting a free rent or incentive or some work you're undertaking on the property to make it for them. What will happen at the end of the 3 years? Their rent will be $112,486 versus $101,237. What you're saying, then you might say, though, that's about $11,000 extra. Where the value is that when you look at cap rates, which is the most popular way of determining the value of commercial property investments, that at 4% equates to $2,530,925,000 at 4% cap rate on the lower rental. On the high rental, where you give the incentive, it equates to $2.812 million. So you're $200 plus $280,000 plus approximately better off after year three. So it's cost you $50,000 early on, but in the long term, you've made a good return on that initial investment you made, which is the name of the game. Now, I'll discuss these in more detail in my book, Commercial Real Estate Investment for the Residential Investor. I'll give you a link at the end of this video.